So hi, one of the Good Noise podcasts with Simon from Baest. We're gonna ask him some questions today. I'm gonna start. So what inspired you guys to start the project, and what does the band name mean?
Well, it started with the two guitarists, Sven and Lasse, meeting up at a bar, where Sven is or was a bartender. It's like a local heavy metal bar, which blasts the heavy music and serves beer and all the beverages. And Lasse was wearing an old school Death T-shirt, remember? And Sven thought that was cool, so I should talk to this guy. And then they ended up talking all night, and they usually said that, well, why don't you come home to me a day and then we'll rip up some riffs. And yeah, after so and so they did and came up with some riffs. And then the Sven knew me because I was a local guest at the bar, and heard me scream at the bar. I was playing another band at that time. Lasse and Moody, the bassist, know each other. And in October 2015, we all met up for the first rehearsal, and the rest is history.
Hell yeah! Okay.
And Baest is the Danish word for beast or brute. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. I know there is also like a foreign old Scottish Gaelic word called the Baest, which is kind of like the same as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's really sick, yeah. So congrats on your upcoming release, Necro Sapiens.
Thank
How do you
you.
feel about the response to it so far, to the people you've shown it to, since at the time of recording it isn't out yet?
I've most of all heard positive vibes around the album. I've spoken to a lot of like journalists like you and had a lot of interviews, and they come out with some very, very positive words about the album. The singles as well. We've also met a lot of like positive vibes. People are so nice and saying very nice things about it, and we are very comfortable with the result as well. So it pretty much fits in with our with our expectations of the albums as well.
Well, that's good
I'm
to
very
hear.
happy to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. We both got a chance to listen to it, and I know I enjoyed it. Gloria was
I
telling me
enjoyed
she
it
did
as
as
well.
well. So
Yeah, it was a little out of my comfort zone, but I did enjoy the album.
You don't listen to a lot of death metal, or?
I listen to One Direction, if that says anything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, you're not a metal like
No, that's Shane. Shane's the metalhead.
now we just talk about like alternative music in general, and since I'm the metalhead, I make sure we get metal interviews as well. So is there any meaning behind the album name or the cover art?
The idea about the album is actually like a concept which is derived from the George Orwell novel 1984.
Okay.
It's not like the same, but it's much more like an interpretation of the album. We're also kind of inspired by like the Mad Max universe and Warhammer for 40,000 magic cards, all kinds of nerdy cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so we kind of built our own universe out from that, and like a kind of a concept. It's not a story, but much more like an overview of this post-apocalyptic dystopic world, which is like kind of a how do you say it, a totalitarian regime ruled by capitalist I don't know rules and stuff like that, with a lot of violence and like corrupt politics and this like spiritual dictator leader called the Tsar, which is ruling this slave kind of race called the Necro Sapiens, and like a lot of violent and corrupt stuff happening, so and so, a bit like derived from from the 1984 novel. And the cover art is by what is it called, Mitchell Nolde, like a artist from Melbourne, Australia. He did some cover art for a band called Vampire as well. Pretty sick band from Sweden. And it's like how do you say it? A figure, a character from the album called Sa, or the Sa, as well, which is depicted on the cover art. Yeah. Yeah. So I think on the other two albums, we tried to work with like typical death metal like subjects, such as like Seven Deadly Sins, and the last album we did some work and interpretation of the Dante's Inferno. So we tried to do something else and something completely different. And what is that? That is kind of outer space. So yeah, we just worked on that, and it turned out pretty cool into an album.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah, that's really sick. I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you work within some creative frames, or like build your own universe, it kind of fits in and gets you into like this creative space where you can like take all a couple of things and then gather into one coil of pretty badass things that you like.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I wanted to ask, did you start off like the process of making the album with the thought that you wanted to have a story involved, or did it just kind of end up forming that way?
Well, we actually it started from the second album already with the ideas about it. We actually wanted to get away from working with concepts because we did it on the two first albums. But kind of like then Sven, the guitarist, like his head is fucking spinning all the time. And then he just placed the fucking book in front of me and then said, well, there you have it. The whole story, the whole album. And I was like, I thought we should move away from it, but yeah. But anyway, but yeah, it's been comfortable of like with working with this a certain subject, because it's nice to build it up through that. And I also think like we moved a bit away from the actual, I don't know, the traditional things we did, and moved us to another way of working with an album, which is much more loose than the two albums. Yeah. So I think we tried to don't do any concept, but ended up doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, that's valid.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, It turned out well, so no complaints here.
I hope so.
Can you tell me a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Well, so, as I said, it started already at like in the recording sessions of the second album, Venom. And Sven and Lasse, the two guitarists, came up with some ideas about how about going into space and stuff like that. And well, so it already started there, and the guys did some riffings, and we always meet up in the rehearsals and like share ideas and stuff like that. And the guitarist has some ideas with us, and then boom, the Corona came. And which made a lot more space for us to dig into the songwriting and experimenting with the sound and how should it like express itself. And also like it put us into a great creative mood with a lot of energy in it, and like creating will to explore these literal themes as well. And it's there, but it's hard to describe through the process, and you kind of not think about it. You're just struggling with it, and get into this kind of creative zone, and then you end up getting pretty stressed out because you're going into the studio and then you have to finish things up.
Yeah.
But, we've had a lot of time to focus on it and enjoyed it most of the time. And the week before we went into the studio, we just we went into the rehearsal space just for a whole week and just rehearsed and like cut it up, cut up bits and pieces, and perfecting it and stuff like that, and like also try to get into a mood where like, okay, this feels badass and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Invited a couple of friends in to hear the songs, and they had they could share some ideas and stuff like that. So, and then we went into the studio and we've really prepared for this shit, and then just like really enjoying playing the songs. We went to the studio and recorded it live, so everybody is like playing at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So that I think is quite important for this album, and sounding as it is right now, much more organic, I think, and with a lot more like living energy and dynamics in it, because everybody is doing it at the same time and are quite confident at that time. So yeah, a lot of chaos and building, and then up till you actually put it all together, and then it ends up fucking great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of working, because you get into usually you take one day at a time, and then we'll do this song, maybe we'll do 2 songs or something like that, and then we'll do maybe 5 or 6 takes, and then get out and listen to the whole song, instead of like, okay, today we're doing drums, okay, I will play the drums, come out again, and then you just listen to a drum track, which is fucking boring. Instead of actually going in and doing a song, and then you come out and celebrate, and usually pack up a beer in the night and listening to the result, which is kind of like satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you prefer recording everything live than piece by piece.
Yeah.
I think the time now, I'm a bit worried about, because we had a lot of time because of the Corona. The last album we did, Venom, was quite in a stressful time. It was in between tours, and 2 of the band members got children at that time. So we were a bit worried that we don't have time for it, but we'll definitely, this is probably the best way we have done an album, and the most comfortable way, just being at a studio place, like far away from everything, like in the countryside, and just with a lot of like activities and peace and quiet to do what you do and to get into it, So we'll probably do it again.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about your headspace while writing this album?
My headspace. You mean the rehearsal space?
Headspace, more like when we were writing this album, I was going through a rough patch in life, or actually I was doing pretty good. Yeah, or I felt like this.
I don't know. I think I felt comfortable.
Okay.
I was a bit frustrated about like the whole world closing down, but that was like the same thing for everybody else, and I think nobody knew how much it would take. So everybody was just stand by and like, what is going to happen with our tours? We were in the middle of a Danish tour at the time when it was closing down. So it was a bit frustrating, but then we were like, it was okay. It was good timing. But then they started like rescheduling and canceling like summer and late spring activities, and then we were like, okay, this is bigger than we actually thought. But luckily we have a great management that is working hard and is always busy on doing rescheduling, and he's doing a hard work to make this happen. as far as we know, we are gonna play late summer, I think.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
With a guy called Phil Anselmo and the Illegals. We are starting in Russia, I believe, big arena shows as a support for Phil Anselmo, and he's playing the Pantera, what's it called, Volga display of power, which is like I think it's turning 25 or something at that time.
Oh wow!
Where he's playing the songs, the Pantera songs from that era, in its whole, just with another band.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were quite comfortable, a bit frustrated about the situation, but we were as everybody else, and everybody else being good at, they just attach and after the circumstances, and we have a lot of things going on and are good at finding things to do as well. So it was kind of a blessing at that time, because we could focus on the album 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right, sick. Congratulations on those upcoming shows. That's huge. Happy to hear that's coming up.
I hope they will be held. Nothing to say right now, but I hope, really cross my fingers.
Yeah,
me
too. So while going through the album, what band or artist influences do you think pop out the most to you, if any?
We were listening a lot to a band called Carcass, a British band, who put out an album in '93 called Hard Work, which is kind of a change for the band musically and as a music style. They used to be a grindcore band, like Birmingham-based, but changed it into a much more groovy and melodic death metal kind of act, which was kind of inspiring and quite a milestone for that, for the band, but also for the times and that kind of music, because that grew very popular at that time. So a lot of that. We've also been listening a lot to the old Opeth albums, like I remember Orchid and Still Life as well, which are pretty Your Arms, Your Hers as well, pretty great albums, and quite progressive. We've also been listening a lot to, of course, also I've been listening a lot to the newest Job for a Cowboy album called Son of Nihility, which has some awesome vocal parts by a guy called Johnny Davey. Also kind of progressive. We've been listening to a lot of 80s rock as well, Rush, and a lot of actually also a lot of country music.
Okay.
Interesting.
Directly inspired by country music, but we like the way of that style of music being played, because it's awesome and it's melodic, and it has another take on music as always. Of course, Iron Maiden, Kiss as well, much more pompous music from that time. But never forget that we also kind of like the old school death metal scene, of course, like the Morbid Angel, the Floridan style of death metal, but also kind of like the Stockholm-based. But as far as we have spoken to journalists, they mentioned that we have moved into a much more American-inspired death metal kind of, and I don't think it's on purpose, but I probably say it's true. So a lot of nice and good bands come through, but I mostly think that we've tried to evolve ourselves and like try to experiment with own melodies and songwriting and sound as well. I know the guitarist has experimented with a lot of like much more airy and puffy sound rather than much more crunchy, but also like mixing it, of course, and trying to do it more melodic and defined.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very
Sick.
interesting.
I never would have thought country. That's really cool. I'm sorry, I just want to say that.
I really like country, but you know, it's like kind of like the contrast to the music.
Yeah.
That's what we're kind of blasting when we're in the tour bus. We're not blasting death metal or anything.
We're blasting country.
Most country and folk music.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow. Okay.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
We're from the countryside, you know, rednecks.
Solid.
So this question should be like pretty quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this new album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
3.
Okay. It's varied, it's brutal, and it's awesome.
Okay.
All right.
Solid.
Brutal.
I like that.
Yeah. That's great. So kind of in the same vein of the last question, is there a certain feeling you want your listeners to have while listening to this album?
Well, it's up to their own interpretation, what they think about it. That's always like kind of, but I want them to know that this is Baest, and this is the most Baest sounding album that is being put out. We are much more matured. We have really dug into the sound and the whole expression and experiencing ourselves through the music as well. So this is definitely how do you say an individual identity stand. This is Baest identity music. This is the most Baest. I want you to listen to Baest, and this is Baest defined in music.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you finally found your sound, is what you're saying. This is it.
I don't know if we found our sound, but we're definitely much more confident about like this musical direction. But I think a band experiencing, they're always experiencing their sound and always evolving. I don't think they'll ever stop evolving. That's our band, for instance. Some bands just want to do the same things within the roots. I don't know. That's not us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how'd you go about choosing the lead single for the record to kind of like hook everybody in?
How we chose it?
Yeah, how'd you go about choosing it?
I think we're trying to do like a great variation of songs, which is representing the sound. So we put out the abattoir, which is kind of like this groovy, fast, which we're quite renowned of in Baest. And after that, we did like a more brutal, also groovy in the end, swinging song like Meat Hook Massacre, which is like a punch in the face from the start, which is like, describing the brutality which Baest can be. And then the last song, Necro Sapiens, is a representation of like the grooviness and the big balls in this band that we imagine ourselves to have. A much more how do you say like catchiness.
Okay. Yeah.
We wanted to make a song that people would know us for, and like with a melody that pops into your mind and it's glued to your it's always playing in your ears, you know.
Cool.
And we have a last song which is like a much more epic, but I can't say something about that now because it's not out.
Yeah. That's fair. So, what made you start the album off with The Forge, which sounds just literally like sound clips from a forge? Was that just to set the tone of the album, or
it's
like
it's just atmosphere. I actually don't know about like what the idea with that. I think it's our producer Andreas Lindemann, which is quite he works with like soundscaping and television and stuff like that, and he just has a big fucking sound library where you find all kinds of cool stuff. And then he ended up finding like a hammer, a sound of a forging with a hammer hitting an anvil. So I think we just thought, well, let's make this the opener because it's cool, and the forging is, a beginning of something, of a creation.
That's really cool.
Okay,
that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was listening to the record on that second track, I was absolutely blown away by the growl on there. It was like a solid 30 seconds long. How the hell did you growl for so long?
Air. And, breathe.
Just breathe.
It was hard. I don't know. I've done this for like 6 years and done a lot of like rehearsing and like trying to train myself as much as possible. I guess I'm doing the right thing. Just hold it in and found the right technique to do it. And it's when you find the technique, I don't think it's so hard actually when you get it into the system and I like trained. But I could imagine if you're not using like the good pressure and like stability in the diaphragms as well, you probably not last as long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's about like balancing the air through diaphragm, I guess so. So it's hard to describe, but I think it's a lot about like how much air you put out and how much pressure you put and how much tension you put on the diaphragm.
Okay.
I'm not a vocal teacher or anything like that, but it's pretty much it.
All right.
Okay, solid. Yeah. So where do you see the band in the next 5 years? And I know this album isn't even like out yet, but are you guys working on anything new that you can tell us about?
Yeah. What do you say? Of course, we will do some activities about like the coming album. I know the guitarist has a book, like a book project on which is based upon the concept of the album.
Wow!
Well. We're speaking to a guy from the UK who also made we made a collaboration with a longtime friend. He has lived here in Aarhus, called Richard Galbraith. He's like a sci-fi writer actually, so he helped out with like doing the last book we did on the Venom, and that's like in the Forge right now, within reach. I also hope so that we can put out like a fourth album. We are working already, having some riffs in the kettle, which might go on a fourth album. I don't know. We haven't gone so far yet, but hopefully also a fourth album will come out within 5 years as well. Hopefully we've also reached outside Europe as well. We reached some live shows outside. I've spoken to a lot of like guys from South America, which are kind of fond. Would really like to go to South America.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, North America as well. So hopefully we've reached outside Europe at that time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Oh yeah,
really good.
So for the last couple of questions, we're actually shift away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Boom again.
Drink. Booyah. Shoot. Oh go crazy. Something with fish.
Ooh.
Something with fish. Yeah, I would probably something with a lobster.
Ooh. How about both?
Huh?
How about both?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hit me up, man. And a nice French white wine.
Ooh, okay.
Prefer, or a nice rum, as I'm drinking right now.
Solid. Yeah. So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
A fictional world?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, there's a lot of fictional worlds.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great question. A fictional world. Now it's time to find something provocative. A fictional world. The future.
The future.
Not gonna happen.
Oh.
No, just to be provocative. No, not to scare you or anything. Fictional world. There's a Danish poet which is called Sophus Clausen, who wrote a poem called Imperia, about like a great blossoming world, I think, underground, underneath. I would see that place. Or what is he called? It's like Edvard Grieg made like a classic. What is his name? He's a Norwegian composer about a guy who made who made up a story about this guy, the place where Peer Gynt is telling about, like the Hall of the Mountain King. The Hall of the Mountain King. I would like to go there. That must be a crazy place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
interesting.
Yeah.
So I have the honor of asking the last question, and every single person you've spoken to has said it's the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Black.
Okay, solid.
I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Our third album, Baest, Necro Sapiens, is coming out at 6th of March the 6th. Listen to it and enjoy it. And I hope to see you very soon. Be safe till now, and be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sitting down with us. It's been Simon from Baest, and we're the Good Noise Podcast.